can move on to our next design, which is SAP for MSPs, the managed service providers. And for that, Naman is going to come in and present.
And this is what I'm going to talk about. What is the models for managing SAP S/4HANA for managed service providers? So I think we have been talking about different type of models, and the same is applicable to managed service providers as well. There could be three deployment options. One is obviously managed by customers. So people who are very familiar with SAP and managing SAP, and they have a solid team of architects and basis administrators who understands they will deploy SAP in the cloud. So as they're moving from data centers to the cloud, whether it's AWS or Azure, they can follow the reference architectures, and they have a team that can manage this in the cloud as well. So that's basically a customer team managing and operating it. Then obviously, as Luke and Shazad mentioned, there's a program with Rise with SAP, which has a SaaS offering, which is a SAP managing platform and providing that as a service. And in that case, obviously, there are pros and cons in terms of how much control can you get, how much visibility can you get, how much SLAs can you expect from SAP in terms of your day-to-day tasks. There are always pros and cons to this, right? And but the third option, which we are going to talk about, is how can a managed service provider can basically start to offer SAP S/4HANA as a service to their end customers, which is what the goal of this presentation is. Now, if you look at overall, what are the benefits? So we are working, or Aviatrix is working with already with the managed service providers who are leveraging Aviatrix as that unified platform or backbone to be able to then start to offer S/4HANA for multiple customers. And obviously, as you all know, SAP is a core enterprise application, and 82% of organizations are looking to move SAP from on-prem to the cloud in the next 12 months. Obviously, there is some urgency from SAP as well, because this is what the model they want to support. And all the innovations are going to happen in that model where SAP is being hosted in the cloud. And if you look at overall the complexity, the migration skills, the cloud skills that you need now is a lot for teams to get ramped up on in a fast track manner, because obviously AWS, Azure, they all work very differently, as you have learned in the last few sessions. And so for teams who have been managing SAP in data centers, they have mature practices. So having to support a business critical application with the SLA requirements that are very critical, it becomes pretty challenging. Right? Application is. So if the MSP in Aviatrix, the MSPs that we have worked with or who are leveraging Aviatrix as that backbone layer and providing and onboarding customers SAP S/4HANA services, they find many benefits out of it. Applications, just because applications are moving from on-prem to the cloud does not mean that the compliance requirements are gone. So, okay, what are the top MSPs? This is basically, there are obviously a lot more. I just got an initial list of MSPs, Accentures of the world, Entity Data, Atos, Capgemini, PwC. They're all well-known names. All right, so what are some of the cloud infrastructure requirements that a MSP look for, right? And, if you have to summarize this in one sentence, it would be that your revenue is directly proportional to how quickly can you onboard a customer onto your environment. The key part is you cannot basically start to build snowflakes per customer. You need to come up with a standard architecture, and then you want to onboard the customer in a repeated manner, in a consistent manner, and then something where your operations team can manage them in a day two in a very efficient manner. An operational experience in terms of tools, in terms of monitoring, in terms of visibility, in terms of being proactive on what actions needs to be taken to keep the environment up and running is very important, because SAP is not just general application. It's a very business critical application, as you may already have experience and are masters in supporting SAP if you are from the SAP world. High availability, disaster recovery, uptime are critical, something that must be looked at. Visibility in terms of faster troubleshooting, capacity planning, threat analytics, and one of the key things that you would see is there's a SAP world where you have your database, your applications, your operating system, And then there is everything outside the SAP world, right? Which is about, how does a region connects to other region? How does a VPC connect to other VPC? How do they connect to the to the data center and on-prem world? How do they connect to SaaS services like Ariba, Concur, SuccessFactor? So all of these things, right, needs to be figured out very quickly when there's a report that SAP is slow or my applications cannot access SAP. From a cost perspective, if you have a consistent architecture, if you have a repeatable architecture, if you have a single way to automate things and operate things, overall, it will help you save cost. All right. So the way it works is for MSP model, this is a multi-tenant Aviatrix MSP reference design for SAP, right? So what you will do is initially you will deploy your Aviatrix controller and Aviatrix Copilot, which is the monitoring and analytics application, into one of your VPCs or one of your VNets, depending on which cloud you prefer to have your management applications. And once you are able to deploy this control plane and this visibility analytics application, everything is almost self-driven by this control plane or by controller. So once you are able to do that, then what you will do is you will build this backbone, right? So this blue thing is the Aviatrix multi-cloud backbone. It's an overlay. Think of it as an overlay network that abstracts all of the native connectivity of each cloud and build you a multi-cloud, multi-region backbone. And then what you will do is you will add your shared services. So in this case, if you look at it, there's a shared services in AWS in Americas. This is yellow is America region. So you build your backbone through control plane. Then you will build a shared VPC. You will add your antivirus patching, your SAP router, your focus run, your DNS, IPAM, everything goes here. Same thing, you go to Europe, you will build a shared VPC, shared services VPC. It could be in AWS or it could be in Azure. So based on where you think strategically it could be placed, now in a way you have commoditized each CSP as a resource pool for you, and you say, okay, in Europe it makes sense to have my shared services in Azure, right? Because you may have a better proximity to the customer, you may have a better relationship with the CSP, you may have certain services you want to use. So you're not now locked into one CSP. So you may have a shared service in AWS, then a shared service in Azure, then APAC, you may have decided, okay, let's do it in GCP, right? So it's just a reference model, but you can have in one cloud, you can have in multiple clouds. And then what you start to do is you start to connect, your data centers, right, through that backbone. So southbound, you connect it again, control plane or controller will allow you to automate and streamline this connectivity to give you that highest performance or high performance connection back to the data center, right? And as Shazad explained earlier, that this is full 10 gig DX or full 10 gigs EX in Azure, or if a cloud interconnect, same thing, because we have our gateway sitting on the other side. So you're not limited to 1.25 gig. So you build your data center connections, and now you start to bring in customers. So each dotted line here is a customer. So every customer could have a prod VPC, a non-prod VPC. A prod VPC is for SAP S/4HANA. Non-prod is for SAP S/4HANA for non-prod. And then you connect them to this backbone, right? Same thing with another customer. You can build, you start to onboard customers in whatever region, whatever cloud they makes the most sense. So if a customer comes in Germany, you may put it in the Europe region or maybe in Azure or in AWS. So it's all automated way to onboard customers onto that backbone and fully segmented. So each customer, this dotted line is showing, is fully segmented through Aviatrix control plane, where now each customer cannot talk to each other. It's fully segmented, have the same level of visibility in operations, because each of this VPC would have our smart gateways that is sending the NetFlow data to our Copilot monitoring application. And we do our intelligence on this Copilot to give you the real-time statistics, the proactive analysis, the security, the threat detection, the anomaly detection, all through Copilot, just by having these smart gateways into your VPCs. So if you look at it in general, so you build this control plane and monitoring application, you build this backbone, which is blue in color here, right? You deploy your firewall, like a Palo Alto, Checkpoint, Fortinet. We allow all major firewalls into your backbone. And then after you do the shared services piece into your backbone, you start to onboard customer 1, customer 2, customer 3, customer 4. So MSP, let's say, may have 50, 60 customers that they're managing in on-prem. As they come to the cloud, they will just get onboarded to this data plane in a very consistent manner. And then obviously, if you have a Ariba application or any of the SaaS applications, they can again come to a ingress landing zone. It could be in AWS, Azure, GCP. So now you have a very consistent and predictable way of how the traffic will come. And you may decide to make sure that they get inspected through a firewall before they go to hit your SAP S/4HANA instances. So you can do that as well. And then obviously all the advanced capabilities that you have, some of them may require egress filtering. Again, you go to the control plane and you configure egress filtering on certain VPCs if it's a requirement for a customer. So it allows a MSP to have this very flexible but consistent platform to be able to build this across the globe, across multiple hyperscalers, and then start to bring in customers as they start to bring them into this new platform, Aviatrix. So that's pretty much it for the reference architecture. Now, if you go to a cloud model, right, since you don't have to worry about the hardware, the software, the power and cooling, the data center buildings, it's very easy for you to create this for multiple customers. Or if you have a really big customer, you can manage it per customer basis, right? So in this one, what I'm showing you is a multiple customer environment, but there's no reason why you can just build this backbone and start to onboard customer VPCs, both SAP and non-SAP in the same model, right? So this one, I'm showing you another example. It's a little bit different, but if you look at it, there's a single tenant design where again, you will deploy the controller and the copilot. You will build this backbone across multiple clouds or single cloud, multiple regions, and then you will start to onboard customer VPC. It could be a SAP AWS Region 1. It could be certain applications running on SAP. You could have your SAP S/4HANA running into Azure or AWS, connect to the same thing. And then you have your actual applications that are trying to connect to S/4HANA, also in the same environment, right? And then you connect to your data center, you connect to your branches, you connect to your retail stores. So it basically becomes that centralized cloud networking platform that allows you to manage your entire networking security footprint, whether it's in one cloud or multiple cloud, and to the hybrid connectivity back to the on-prem world. And so for an MSP, as long as they have the skills, they can build this single tenant for a customer, or they can build it for multiple tenants in the same backbone that they have. Shazad, any questions on the chat so far?
No, no questions so far, but I think it's a very important distinction to remember here that the design is actually applicable to multi-tenant situation, or like you mentioned, a single tenant situation, because oftentimes when the customer look at MSP, they're always thinking from the multi-tenant lens, but especially in the SAP world, it could be just a single tenant utilizing and consuming the entire infrastructure. And again, it goes back to the use cases, goes back to the customer that you're trying to onboard.
Exactly. All right. So now couple of other items that I want to highlight. So first of all, the performance perspective, he provide you the patented high performance encrypted throughput, which is not possible through native CSP constructs. The second is, you get this unified platform provided, MSP ops team, a consistent set of tools, right? So, if you have an ops team who is managing the environment, they don't have to be a PhD in AWS and Azure and GCP, right? Because we abstract the constructs of cloud and make it unified and normalized across all the cloud providers. So when you're managing it, you just go to a single platform, or if you are using Terraform, you use a single Terraform to configure and manage your environment. And then you have some intelligent dashboards that comes on top. Which is what networking team really love, because they don't have to bother the SAP basis team if the issue is with the networking security. So they could be like hundreds of things, but what Copilot does, or what intelligent networking does, is basically it looks at multiple things and it pinpoints in a way to help you guide where the problem is, which is an extremely important thing when you're managing a business critical application. Now, agility perspective, when new customer comes in, they could come in with different set of requirements. And when you have a standardized global cloud backbone, it's very easy for you to not only attach it to the backbone, but then operationalize this in a very efficient manner. So for an MSP, right, it becomes a force multiplier where you can simplify the complexity of cloud native constructs and allows you to do more with less people in the group. Now, this is another quick case study. Siddharth, were you saying something?
Yeah, one question came up about the users. So we spoke a lot about application connectivity for the SaaS service access, or from the ingress internet point of view. We also discussed about the access to the on-premise hybrid connectivity areas. But what about the user VPN or end user connectivity, like developers?
Yeah. So that's also included as part of our solution. So there is a user VPN solution that we offer as part of the platform. So if you have developers who wants to access certain instances within your cloud environment, there's a completely isolated, segmented way of doing that, where each customer through our user OpenVPN capabilities can be profiled and then can be segmented to have access to a certain privileged subnets or tag-based resources or instances, right? So you can say that, okay, I have a development team in Germany, and I want them to be able to, only access my, let's say, S4 HANA in region number 2 in AWS, in Azure, for example. You're able to build that profile, and you're able to build that, segmentation, security segmentation, to be able to provide those access. This could be a geo-based, policies that you can create. So, they could be anywhere, especially with remote work now become a new normal. You're able to then provide that profile, and it will move the profile with you as you move from one location to the other location. All right, so quickly, a case study on SAP. So we have, several MSPs that we are working with, but one of them wanted to specifically build this global multi-cloud backbone for their S4HANA customers. They wanted to consolidate shared service, because obviously they were using it without Aviatrix, but they were having to build snowflakes and shared services in different clouds in a different way. How can you abstract all of that and build a consistent and normalized way of doing this architecture across multiple clouds? This is what this customer or this MSP built. So what it has given them, to regain the lost control of networking functions, and then allow their operations team and the design team and architecture team to be more efficient as part of your architecture. And obviously, another big thing for that particular MSP is, when they want to connect the customer to their on-prem or to their branches or partners, they all come with very complex or very different networking challenges around, okay, this subnets or CEDAR overlap between each other, whether in the cloud or whether in on-prem. So how can you have a solution which provides you a consistent way to do netting, advanced net or map net features, to be able to provide that connectivity and operations in an efficient way? We make it easy for MSP to go ahead and build this backbone, right? So there's obviously, the first step is to, deploy from a deployment perspective, is to build that backbone that I talked about, right? So we have our MSP experts that come and help you out with building that backbone. Then you start to onboard customer onto that backbone, and we'll help you provide that Terraform approach, where your operations team is fully trained on bringing that customer, which means that, how do you create the VPC VNet? How do you deploy the Aviatrix gateways and connect SAP customer on the network backbone? And then the SAP basis team would come in and deploy SAP into those VPC VNets. And then your operations team gets fully trained on how do you manage and operate this. So reach out to us if you are interested in that, and it will 100% accelerate your customer onboarding and make you more efficient with managing your SAP S/4HANA customers. We also have different type of incentives that we provide to MSPs, right? So just like in any tiering program, number of customer architects, number of customer wins, number of total network connections that you manage, sort of increase your tier or raise your tier as a partnership. From the MSP perspective, we have 6 different cloud training tracks that we leverage to help MSP get up to speed. We have joint marketing and business value realization sessions around sales, marketing, promotional videos, modernized cloud offerings. And obviously, from a revenue opportunity perspective, it's a complete life cycle. So for all the way from initial selling to design, deploy, to manage services and third-party integration, all becomes part of your offering to the end customer.
But I think it's important to, again, emphasis on the commercial model. So if you have some specific questions, please do reach out to us, connect to us, and we can actually share more details. Yeah. So Naman, one question just came up. It's about how pricing is decided, or you have some quick.
Yeah, we can. I mean, reach out to us. But I think for MSP, we have a very MSP friendly model because MSPs are a margin business, right? So their business depends on being revenue positive, cash flow positive. So we have a model where we can work with the MSP to get things deployed, right? And as the customer starts to get onboarded and start to realize the revenue, then we basically, Aviatrix also gets the revenue out of it. So it's a very MSP friendly commercial model. And then, from the pricing perspective, there's no charge to controller and copilot that we do or gateways. The way we charge is very similar to network connection. So, between a VPC to VPC or VPC to a on-prem or a data center, we consider that as network connection, which has all those capabilities that we talked about.